You're listening to CRV's Better Heard podcast, brought to you in partnership with the New Zealand Dairy Exporter. Join us as we talk to CRV experts, industry leaders and farmers about hot topics and issues affecting herd improvement in New Zealand's dairy industry today.
Well, it's conference time next month for the Dairy Women's Network, and CRV is proud to be an event sponsor and supporting dairy women across the country. Last year, conference plans were disrupted by COVID, but the DWN went on to hold a successful online meeting. This year, they are exploring making the conferences more regional. Together with Allflex, the DWN is bringing networking and professional development opportunities to the regions. They'll be holding 3 one-day events in Taupo, Queenstown and Ashburton. With an impressive lineup of speakers and workshops, the conferences are shaping up to be fun, informative and entertaining. Today, I'm joined by DWN Chair and Atiamuri dairy farmer Karen Forlong to chat about what conference delegates can expect and why these events are not to be missed. Kia ora, Karen.
Hi, Rosanna. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. You've been involved with DWN for a long time now, or for some time. What is so special about the organisation and the role that it plays in our industry?
I think you were actually quite right when you said a long time, actually, because it is actually 21 years that I've been involved with the network, and I was one of the originals that formed the Rotorua group back in 2000, so it has actually been a long time. What's so special about us? Well, I think probably the biggest thing is that people are at the heart of our organisation. You know, we provide a platform for women around the country to connect. That's done through national and regional events. It's about developing relationships and supporting them through the network. Way back when we started out, Hilary Weber, I think it's actually about 22 years ago, there was 4 key ideas or desires with when the network came to being. And one of those was, when faced with economic, social and environmental issues, women will use their skills and knowledge to drive the business forward and to meet the many challenges of dairy farming. And interestingly enough, that is as relevant today as it was 22 years ago in so many respects. One of the things we pride ourselves on as a network is that we're always evolving. We have a huge challenge to remain real and relevant to all of those that actually come to our events and that connect with us. We're an interesting organisation. I call us a game of 2 halves, really, because this is probably very personal, but I think I would probably be speaking for those that are very committed to the organisation, and there's 2 very different sides to the organisation. We have that connection and inclusive aspect where DWN is actually a tribe. Once you get into this organisation and you feel the safety and the trusted presence of like-minded women around you, it's actually damn hard to leave. So we're very committed through the Dairy Tomorrow strategy around commitments 5 and 6, which is about creating great workplaces for our people and vibrant communities. So, you know, that's part of it. That to me is that belonging to a tribe and having your bucket filled and your soul filled. The other side of it, of course, is the engine room. It's the grunt that you get out of DWN. Another saying that's come from the chair prior to me, Kathy Brown, was that there's always gold in the room. You get a group of women together who are in their comfort zone and they start to share. You'd be amazed at the wealth of knowledge within that room, without the fact that we also provide learning and leadership opportunities, and we bring in multitude of experts from the wider agri sector and to contribute to the challenges and the things that are going on farms so that our people are able to move forward. And I think, in essence, the one thing you learn about DWN is you're not alone. Those challenges that you feel that you may have, they aren't just yours. It's surprising how many other people they belong to as well. You know, that's my very personal opinion of what DWN is.
That's so relevant, Karen. I mean, 21 years is a long time, and I'm sure you've seen lots of things change over that time. And I think having that togetherness and, like you say, feeling like you're not alone in it gives you the ability to deal with whatever comes up in the future, right?
Yep.
The theme for this year's conference is stepping up together. What's the thinking behind that?
That's very much comes back to that being real and relevant. You know, at the moment, stepping up together, you know, the industry is going through a significant amount of change and pressure due to new government regulations, requirements from our international markets, all of that sort of thing. And realistically, the only sure way we can probably get there is to step up together. We're a very small nation on a very big world stage when it comes to food production and what we do. So individually, we're not that big, but together we can do that. So I think it's really relevant with the fact that, and I think COVID probably brought that home too, the unity of community and a wider community, and particularly the dairy sector. So yeah, stepping up together is about, let's pool our resources, let's pool the groupthink, let's pool everything and do this together.
You mentioned COVID there, and I'm sure the world was a lot different for us all last year. And obviously you were forced online as opposed to your large national conference that you have. And so what sort of learnings have you had from that particular situation, having to go online? And why was the decision to offer 3 regional events instead of that one large conference this year?
We're a very small team, very agile and really nimble. So what we did learn is that, we can do whatever the many forms of COVID might be in a very short time. But we were also very aware afterwards that going online is great. However, one of the key things that I mentioned earlier about DWN is connection, and it's that face-to-face connection. I think we're intrinsically wired as people to require a certain amount of that in our lives. So as much as, we did a really good job of online. We were the first in the country to actually take it, do it, run with it, and it was a rip-roaring success. That said, we felt that there was definitely a need for people to come together again, so that's why we went back to the face-to-face. But we also had in mind that, some of the criteria that we've had to actually operate in around COVID would mean that maybe if we actually spread the net a bit wider and we did smaller regional groups, who knew back then, because we were planning back in June, what COVID would look like this time, in 2021. So that's the reason why we decided to keep them to slightly smaller. It's just a day, which is a bit easier to manage too if somebody changes, what you are and aren't allowed to do in a particular week. And the other thing too is that from a people perspective, we were able to regionally support what was relevant in that region, particularly in the water space, because each of our regions have different requirements around water. As much as it's a national freshwater policy, each region has its own little idiosyncrasies, and we hope that our workshops have been able to actually, through using localised input, we're able to actually add real value to those that attend those workshops.
That's really exciting, and you're right, and we've had the same thing in our business where we've utilised the online experience to be able to get a bit of both and the best of both worlds, right? But I think that togetherness is so important.
It is. Nothing beats it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually going to be in the Taupo event, so I'm really looking forward to it. And one of the things that's exciting is that you've got Gemma Mccoy. She's one of your keynote speakers, and I'm sure that's going to be a draw card. How's Gemma's experience relevant to dairying, and what do you think she's going to bring to that discussion?
Well, I must admit, I'm quite excited about being in Taupo too and actually seeing Gemma Mccoy. Gemma has worn many hats in her life, and she's juggled a lot of balls in the year. And that's something that really resonates with dairy women every day. We wear so many hats and are instrumental in our families, our communities, our industry, and of course our farming businesses. And so we felt that there was a great alignment with that. Gemma relates really well to that, and she has a strong focus on her well-being and what fills her cup. And that's really, really important if you're going to give your very best to anything, is that you actually do take the time to look after yourself first.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, actually. What other lineup of speakers have you got to excite us with?
One of our nationwide workshops is actually around business diversification. And that's a big issue for dairy around generational succession. We have a mature farm ownership level, for want of a better word, I suppose. And there's a real need for us to be able to transition young people into farming. Dairy farming is what we're talking about today. The idea of the business diversification is that the old system of you started here and you finished there and you went through the set steps is probably really challenged in this environment. So we're having to be more creative. So across the country, we've got a key set of people that are actually running this workshop in all three areas. But we are bringing in individuals that are localised, that are actually stepping outside what we would call the norm and doing something a little bit different. Chloe Walker, for argument's sake, here in Taupo, she is involved in the Rogue Boar, which is a geothermal brewery. And her and Matt contract milk down the road from me, 2,000 cows, and, she's a very busy woman, and she is expanding their business off-site, probably with the hope of pulling it all together, and where they head from there, who knows. But I think each of the regions has 2 or 3 people contributing around what they're doing outside the industry that adds value and purpose to what they're doing on their journey while within farming.
Excellent. And I understand the freshwater policy is another key topic that you're going to be discussing. And obviously that's a hot topic in our industry at the moment. Why water, and what can conference delegates expect to learn?
Well, 2018 saw, the Essential Freshwater Policy was launched, and with it come all the regulations around land intensification, winter grazing, caps on nitrogen, stock exclusion. And these all have to come into play over a period of time until 2025, in conjunction with Healthy Rivers, of course. Farmers have to incorporate ways to manage these into their farming practices and their farming systems. And I think the reality of us for all is there is still a lot of confusion out there. And we are hoping that by the end of the day that some of that noise will have quietened a little, and some of that confusion may well have gone out of the what do I have to do and where do I go. We've got a range of experts from how you can use your animals to implement some of these changes, how council are dealing with these requirements and working with the farmers. There will be experts who can clarify some of the requirements that are still causing this confusion. Fonterra will be there, and we have a Fonterra representative from each of the regions that, of course, will be very aware of the individual requirements within those regional areas to be able to answer those key questions that participants might have that are directly related to them and their situation on their farm. So, I think at the end of the day, the panel of experts per se will be available for a period of time after the actual workshop finishes as well. Whether you ask the question during the workshop, because there's nothing like a DWN workshop for interactive exchange of ideas and questions. We have this mantra that there's no such thing as a silly question, because often if you're sitting there thinking, oh gosh, I'd like to ask that, you can guarantee there's probably at least a dozen others in the room that would too. So we're very respectful of getting the questions out there, asking these people, come along to conference and get value out of those experts by asking those questions that you haven't had a forum in which you felt safe to ask them. And I think that can be the real value to any attendee personally. And if you're still not quite brave enough to do it in the room, well, nab them afterwards when they're having a cup of tea. That's part of this whole connection thing with our conferences.
Yeah, often that coffee chat is where you get the most value sometimes, when you get a chance to digest and ask some of those silly little questions, what you think are silly little questions.
Absolutely.
So these types of policies are obviously going to shape the future direction of our industry. What other sort of issues or big challenges do you think are out there for dairy?
I pondered this question, actually, to be perfectly honest, and are they challenges or are they opportunities? And I think maybe we need to focus on the fact that change is always constant, because we're always looking to challenge ourselves to be smarter and to be better. So as such, the change we see today is actually the challenger of yesterday. So it's not really a challenge, it's a challenger. And realistically, challenge is only opportunity in disguise. I have a pity party like everybody. Some days I'm really good at it. I'm over it. I'm out of here. It's too big and it's too hard. But the reality is that, as a producer, we're firmly in the hands of the consumer. We already have a great product. In fact, we've got one of the world's best, if not the best, and we have a great story. And on that note, NZ's story was launched yesterday, which is a great opportunity if anybody can get online and actually have a look at that document. It's a one set of words that actually says it beautifully about who we are and what we do. What we probably aren't doing is telling our story well enough or loud enough There's a heck of a lot of people out there that are doing a great job already. I recently listened to Julia Jones's podcast. It was a beef and lamb seen and heard podcast. I mean, I don't know. JJ was our MC last year for our online conference. And I mean, if you haven't had the pleasure of meeting JJ, then you've just missed one of life's great opportunities because she's just a dynamo. But one of the things when I was listening to her, she said, we undersell what matters. People buy into the process, your farm, your systems, your animals, and your philosophies. And we're probably overselling the scenery. And I think we need to remember that, what we really need to focus on what we are doing behind the gate through the processes of processing. We're damn good at what we do. So as much as those challenges that are out there, they are climate and fresh water, and I know they're front and foremost of everybody's thoughts, but the reality of it is that we've got a great product and we have a huge opportunity, and we've got to try and focus the narrative on the opportunity rather than the challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Karen. I mean, one of the things, it's always scary having things forced upon us or feeling like they're outside of our control, but often we just have to embrace it and do that together. Opportunities to come together and figure out how you do that is so important, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, we mentioned a bit about success. What does success look like? And I think that's what this is about. This is about taking the challenge and the some days that it feels pretty overwhelming and putting a spin on it, that this is an opportunity to actually really to look at it as a form of success. And success is not an end result. Success is actually a journey. It's a bite size. It's the little steps on the way. It's the small successes that we make every day to change, to get better, that will ultimately get us. And I don't know that we'll ever be through this, because we're the sort of people on land in particular, I feel, that once you succeed here, you're looking to succeed there. It's never finished, is it? And life isn't either. You're always looking to the future. So I think this is really our new norm, and our success is going to be how we actually rise up and face it.
And the story that comes with it.
Yep, totally.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Karen, and sharing about the conference and DWN and what they stand for. I understand there's still time to register for one of the conferences. If women are listening and are keen to attend, where can they find that information?
They can go to the website on www.dwn.co.nz, of course. There's a registration link then. Depending on which conference you go to, you can look for all the opportunities. In Taupo, of course, there is the Fonterra Dairy Woman of the Year Award. And I have to put a plug out there, hot off the press. Miles is going to be there. He is going to speak on the night, and he is also going to award our crowned 2021 Dairy Woman of the Year. So, for Taupo, for the Central Plateau region, that's great. There's nothing nicer than getting Miles down there to actually be part of the team on the night. So come along and enjoy that. We also have FMG will be announcing the Regional Leader of the Year at the dinner also. And if you are going to join us in Queenstown, there's the opportunity to do the winery tour the next morning as well. So plenty to do, plenty to see, plenty of fabulous women to meet. And once you have, you'll want to rock up next year because you can't miss an opportunity to catch up. It's like your annual jab, you go along and you get your whiz bang and you come home all fired up and you're ready to just take on the next 12 months, really. So a lot of us that have been many, many times always feel it's a little bit like going off to your health spa, only you don't get your toenails done. It's more between your ears that gets done, and your heart and your soul gets filled, and then you get back out there and you give it your best for 12 months. So, that's really us. But just before we do sign off, there's one thing I would like to do, and that is actually just take a minute to mention that CRV are absolutely marvellous, and we really do appreciate their sponsorship and their involvement in conference. And just a big shout out from DWN to CRV. You're a great bunch of guys. You do great stuff out there, and we really do appreciate your support.
I appreciate that, Karen, and that wasn't paid for. That was completely free, so I'll take that. CRV, likewise, we are really proud to be associated with the Dairy Women's Network and the opportunities that you give to women in the industry and the chances to get together. So I think it's really valuable. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you in person in Taupo.
Thanks for listening to CRV's Better Heard podcast. Read more about today's topic and our panel guests by visiting crv4all.co.nz. That's crv4all.co.nz. Or follow us on social media.